Howdy, and welcome to another episode of Life with Professor Retro. So, just like yesterday's vlog, today's vlog is going to be about another trip I took in my past, and this trip was to Vegas in September of 2012. So, we had taken the flight from Milwaukee with a layover into Houston, and then from Houston to Vegas. And we had flown into Vegas and got there, and we stayed at the MGM Grand Hotel. Now, most people go to Vegas to gamble their life away. The old saying, you lose your shirt in Vegas. We went to sightsee. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about, is all the sights we saw in Vegas. My mom is very good at making up itineraries before going on trips like this, so that way you're not spending your entire time in a casino. We did go to casinos, but we didn't spend our entire time gambling our life away in casinos. So one of the first tours we took was called the City Tour, and this took you to different casinos. You got to see inside a couple of the casinos. So you got to see the inside of the Mirage, the inside of the Bellagio, that sort of thing. It talked about some of the sights to see outside of Vegas, like they're in the process of building a big giant Ferris wheel like you saw in London. You got to see a couple of the unfinished casinos, because at the time those were starting to build, the economy was booming, and then the economy took a dump, so there was no money to be had or given to fund these projects. So people just kind of up and left them, and you just got to see kind of husks of half-built casinos. Then from there, we did two tours in one day. Then we did the Pawn Stars tour. This showed you some of the Pawn Stars experts at the time. So the first step was, of course, Johnny, the Pawn Stars toy expert, who had his shop, which was the Toy Shack. There you can see what is called the Gilbert Atomic Lab. This was a home atomic lab, I think out of the 60s or 70s, that is listed as one of the most dangerous toys in the world. The reason being is because it was supposed to teach kids back then about atomic energy. It came with actual radioactive material. Johnny has high up on a shelf an actual one of these, and the reason why is because I told you it is one of the most dangerous toys in the world. Then from there you went to Rick's Restoration, which at the time was the Pawn Stars restoration expert. This is a massive facility with buildings all named after family members. You get tour the place, see some of the projects they were doing for their show at the time. We got to meet actual Rick. His name was Rick Dale, his brother, his wife. You didn't get to see any of the kids, but you got to see some of the people working on some of the projects there. We were the last group to do this. They were offering big giant poster-sized pictures of you that you could have taken of you and Rick. And so we were the last group that they were doing it with, because otherwise they just took little 5x10s of you. It was nice because by the time I got home, they had mailed it already to my house after we had left. And by the time I got home, it was there sitting there, so that was great. I didn't have to wait for it to show up after I got home. So that was literally day one in Vegas. The next day we did take a tour. One day we did take a tour to Red Rock Canyon, Bonnie Springs Ranch, and Howard Hughes' house. First stop, of course, was Red Rock Canyon, and this was gorgeous. You'll see these big giant rock cliffs, and you'll see there's you get normal kind of the white grayish rock cliffs, but if you go look down on these rock cliffs, you'll see this beautiful red hues. That's all sandstone, all red sandstone. This is gorgeous. I got to see you get to see actually live wild creatures there too. So we ran into what's called a Jesus donkey. The only reason they're called that is because if you look on their foreheads, there's a little. They get a cross. It looks like a cross on the front of their foreheads. And then from there we went to Bonnie Springs Ranch, which by now it closed in March 17th of 2019, but back then it was a struggling tourist attraction. Back when my parents were younger, the way it worked was you park in the parking lot, then you would take a short train ride from the parking lot to the actual attraction itself. And here they did a drama. They did a mock hanging. But it was meant to look like an old Wild West town. It was kind of sad but neat at the same time. And then after that, we ate lunch at Howard. We got to tour Howard Hughes' house and then ate lunch there. Basically, you start the tour with them asking what type of sandwich you want, and basically instead of a homemade meal or something made in like a kitchen or something, you get what looked like sandwiches they bought at Walmart. This was kind of the most pathetic tour we went on because we were the only 4 people on this tour. I felt sorry for the tour guide because he had nobody else. Then one day we did a tour of the Grand Canyon. This was a neat tour. It's a 6-hour bus ride from Vegas to the Grand Canyon, with about a good hour and a half of it being extremely bumpy. And by the time you got there, they served you lunch while you were there. Like I said, you're not there for lunch, you're there for the grandeur of the Grand Canyon, one of the wonders of the world. And there are 2 sides. There's the Arizona side. We were on the Vegas side of it. The Nevada side, pretty much. And on the Nevada side, for $30, you could go on what is called the Grand Canyon Skywalk. This is a glass structure that you can stand on that extends in over the Grand Canyon. And I'm not paying $30 to walk on something that sounds like it's going to crack and cause me to fall to my doom. But for those that do it, it's probably a neat experience. If I'm going to do something like that, I'm going to go to Spring Green, Wisconsin, and and tour the House on the Rock to get what's called the Wind Point. And they have a little circle where you can pretty much look down, and that's about it. That's about as far as I'm going to do something like that. Then you can, then another day, we had then gone to do Hoover Dam. Now the tour company we went with this was called Comedy On Board, where you actually got an actual tour guide that is a stand-up comedian, not a well-known stand-up comedian, but a stand-up comedian nonetheless. So the tour gets sitting there on the way there joking with the people and everything else to keep you entertained so you're not sitting in a boring bus ride to the Hoover Dam. What makes this tour company unique, besides the fact that your tour guide's a comedian, is it is the only tour in Vegas that does a guided tour of the top of Hoover Dam. Otherwise, you just walk Hoover Dam and look and go, oh, look at that. This is a guided tour of the top of Hoover Dam. Inside Hoover Dam is always guided, but the top of Hoover Dam is never guided. Now, years and years and years ago, you could drive on the top of Hoover Dam, But the problem they had with that was traffic. And traffic was always bad back at that time because people would drive over Hoover Dam, go, oh look, we're on Hoover Dam, and go get out of their cars, leave them running sometimes too, go take pictures and and go, oh wow, I'm on Hoover Dam, and then get back in their car. So while you're doing that, there's probably about a line of 20 cars behind you waiting to do the same. So to avoid that and make sure people can walk on the top of Hoover Dam, they redirected the road over this big giant bridge, and what's neat about the big giant bridge is from the bridge you can actually see Hoover Dam too. Now, we took this trip well post 9/11, so there's security checks, because if someone blows up Hoover Dam, that wipes out all of Vegas's electricity and floods it too. Because Hoover Dam was built to, one, power that whole part of the country, pretty much most of that half of that state, and two, to kind of quell the Colorado River, because the Colorado River goes right through Hoover Dam, right through that area, Nevada and that area. So we were there, and well, like I said, this was post 9/11, and so security's tight. But because this is a tour called Comedy on Board, they have to do something funny as a security check. So before we get to the security check, the tour guide hands out these little goofy ass glasses, and you put these goofy ass glasses on, and then you go through a security check. They bring in the security check comes on board, and the funny thing was the security check sees us all wearing these goofy ass glasses, and the first words out of their mouth are, okay, I'm sorry, they have to take it off so we can see their faces. The first words out of their mouth are, oh look, a family. And this was hilarious. It's good that they recognize that this is what this tour company does and allows it. Otherwise, we'd be stuck going, well, we have to take these off, and then we have to go through the security check again. No, they said, oh, look, a family, and let you on through. And so that was that. A few other notes in Vegas. MGM Grand, which was where we stayed, has an attraction called the CSI Experience. This mimics like you're trying to solve a crime that happened in Vegas, mainly because that show back then took place in Las Vegas. We did go to Circus to see a medieval time show. That was kind of neat. We got some other things you can do in Vegas that don't involve gambling and are actually free. The Bellagio's got an indoor water feature. Of course, there's always the Mirage fountains. If you're up for shows, you can go to. I'm not sure how much it costs, but Cirque du Soleil has at different casinos different shows, themed shows. There's one for Chris Angel called Mind Freak, but the one we went to was at the Mirage called Love, which is a Beatles themed show, and I'm a big Beatles fan, so that was a joy to watch. It was an amazing show. They come out right before the show to say during the show there is a feature in the show where it'll extend over the audience, and they tell you not to touch it. And it basically, if you remember in your kindergarten days, back when I was in kindergarten at least, they always had that big goofy ass kind of cloth thing that you put over you and you make it do weird things. That's pretty much what it was. But like I said, it was a phenomenal show. I recommend it if it's still there. We did go to a couple casinos. One thing I also highly recommend you do, it's free unless you go in the casinos and the shops there, is Fremont Street. Fremont Street is old style, which is actually, let's just say it's old Vegas. A couple of the older casinos are there, like the Four Queens is there. But like State Street in Madison, Wisconsin, where you can walk and there's no cars that'll ever bug you because they block it off, so it's only a pedestrian area. That's what Fremont Street is. And the best thing about it is if you go there at night and look up, You could go there during the day, but at night it's really good. If you look up and you go to Fremont Street, you're going to see this kind of big rounded thing above you. It's an LED screen. And at night, I think it's like every hour on the hour, or every hour or so, that lights up with this amazing LED light show. And a little tip for you there. When you go to Vegas, and it's the whole reason why I carry my wallet in my front pocket now since then, is because what would happen is if you had your wallet in your back pocket and you're standing there doing this, there's a pickpocket waiting in the shadows to go yoink and walk off with your wallet, because you won't feel it happening in your back pocket. But if it's in the front pocket, they have to reach around and try to weasel out of your pocket, and then you're going to notice. Or if you have a fanny pack or something like that, I suggest having something secure to carry your stuff in. If you go to Binion's, there's a stack of bills under glass that's literally equal to about $1 billion. Now the legend goes that if you can find a way to take all that $1 billion out in one trip, you can keep it. It's there because no one has ever figured out how to do that. At least not to my knowledge. We did do a breakfast buffet there. It wasn't the best. If you want the best kind of buffet experience, you want to go to, I think it's called France Casino. I'm not sure what it's called, but they've got an international buffet where you could get foods from different countries, and oh my god, that was fucking delicious. If I'm ever in Vegas, I'm doing that again. Little Vegas history. Back in the 80s, they wanted to try to bring families to Vegas instead of just adults. So they decided to try to make it more family oriented. So 2 casinos decided to make more kind of family evented areas. MGM Grand had once had a theme park, and Circus has a family area still underneath the casino, where you could play little kind of theme park games. Squirt water into a hole, blow up a balloon, and if the balloon pops, you win type deals. But past all that is the medieval show, and this is kind of a brilliant thing to do. I mean, it's literally like going to medieval times. So if you're into that, I highly recommend that. Vegas is the only place I know of where you can get a quickie wedding and a quickie divorce. It's also the only area where you could get married by Elvis, and I'm assuming they probably have an Elvis that can divorce you. So part of some of the attractions you can see, I talked about the Bellagio fountain, talked about the Mirage fountain as well. I forgot to mention that the end of the Pawn Stars tour, the last stop is actually the Pawn Stars Gold and Silver shop. You won't see the guys there because they only are there when they're filming the show, an episode of the show. But you get to see a lot of the items that showed up there. And I sat there, and they actually got people working there. And at the time, they were trying to sell these gold for $80. You could buy these gold coins with pretty much the senior Rick Harrison on there. He has long since passed since I've been there, and of course Chumley has been in some legal trouble since I've been there too. But I sat there and asked one of the employees that was behind the counter, and I asked him, "What is the most expensive item in the shop?" And the guy points right behind him on a shelf. 3 sets of these long, they're about this long, of old Japanese feudal era samurai swords. And I remember seeing them when they got them on the show, but to see this in person was great. If you wanted to take a picture with the guys, they had this kind of cardboard cutout thing advertising like a credit card they had or something like that, with all the guys standing there. That's about the only way you're going to get a picture taken with the guys. And there's a lot of stuff to see there. I wish I could have seen there. I would love to go back, because there's an entire museum dedicated to atomic energy. And from what I hear now, they also have a Fallout exhibit in that museum, which I really would love to see. I'm a big fan of the Fallout video game franchise. They have an entire museum to risque. We're just going to leave it at that. Because if I say what it is, two, I probably will get, one, backlash from saying it in comments. And two, yeah, YouTube might not like me. But it's not like, it's a museum to adult entertainment. Let's leave it at that. So, one thing I'm going to mention is you're in a desert, so you're going to want to drink lots of water. And two, because you're in a desert, there's no point of reference. Where you could say, well, you're not, where you're headed is right by a light pole. In the desert, you can't do that. What looks like is maybe a few blocks away could be about 10 blocks away. Because the desert tricks your eyes into thinking everything's closer. It's like the desert is a massive living rearview mirror, but without the warning that says images in mirror might be closer than you think. You cannot cross. Let's say this: you can cross the street, but only in certain ways, right? Because there's casinos on both sides of the strip. And the certain ways are they have pedestrian bridges that go across the street. That way you don't have some idiot that literally tries to run across the street. Because day and night, that entire strip is fucking nothing but traffic. If you go to Vegas and you go outside and look outside the front of these casinos where you can enter them, you'll see lines of taxis on either side. That's because there's a person whose dedicated job is to do nothing more than hail you a taxi. They're waiting. So if you need to take a taxi somewhere from whatever hotel or casino you're staying at, that person will literally hail a taxi, and the first taxi in line at that time will come and get you, and you tell them where to go. And these are not your traditional taxis. Some of these are like SUVs. We had taken it the same day we had taken the City and Pawn Stars tours. We were also headed to go see the Cirque du Soleil show, and we had taken a taxi from the Pawn Star shop to the Mirage to see the show. And we crammed into this kind of SUV type deal, or this Jeep, but it was kind of nice. And he also talked about different things too. So it was kind of like we got a tour that wasn't a tour. So that's about my trip to Vegas. We've then took a night flight back home to Milwaukee, and after that I ended up home. All in all, it was one of my favorite vacations I took. So again, I hope you enjoyed this one. Always do good. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.